Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why you should market to people who have a lot of money and people who have the most opportunities. Because I'm going to tell you something that probably no one else has really talked about. The people with the least opportunities in this society are usually the most delusional, right? And we all kind of know, as you've gotten older, you all kind of know that society is just a giant scam against young people, right? But why is it that young people seem to think they have all the options in the world? Simply because of the trend that the people with the least opportunities are usually the most delusional. It's kind of sad, but it's truth. So I'm going to start off with this article that I've read from time to time in this YouTube channel, but I like reading it because it has a lot of insight. It's from 2012, and it says, "A Gen Xer's rant, what's wrong with my millennial employees? Doesn't anyone under 30 want to work? One Gen X business owner laments an all too common workplace generation gap." So from 2012, okay? And this is she's talking about millennials, and I'm a millennial too, and I know millennials pretty much suck, but I'm going to try to change that, okay? So, I never imagined that the toughest problem I would have in running a multi-million dollar business would not be getting off the ground, staying afloat, or growing at a rapid pace. While all huge challenges, they're a walk in the park compared to the biggest obstacle I've dealt with in 5.5 years of business: recruiting a group of loyal, competent young employees under 30 years old. I like to think my problem isn't just that I'm an old fart. I own a luxury swimwear e-commerce platform with my husband. We're 32-year-old owners with a startup mentality, and I like to think about deeply care about culture, frequently discussing our values and hosting regular company happy hours. Now, let me just kind of skip to this here. When I was 23, I used to dream about being part of a company that cared about what I thought, that saw my true potential, and gave me challenging responsibilities. Turns out our millennial staffers don't really see it that way. And while I know that I can't generalize my experience to a whole generation, I also doubt my young employees are unique. Here's a list of grievances. They're cocky. I have yet to give a millennial a leadership position and have them accept their new role with humility. Once you give them a fancy title like assistant buyer or marketing specialist, they automatically seem to think they're God's gift to you, your clients, and other employees. They're not afraid to speak to others in a condescending manner or even talk back to you. They nonchalantly move through life doing things I wouldn't have dreamed of doing to any of my superiors, let alone the owner of my company when I was their age. They take things for granted. So, this is the most important part of the article with regards to this video. Millennials seem to think they have a ton of options. Even in a recession hobbled economy with very few challenging entry level job openings and fewer in the fashion industry, 20 somethings seem to think their options are endless. That makes them less aware of how grateful they should be for the things they have, especially the unique opportunity to learn the ins and outs of a luxury industry startup. Now, I'm going to stop here, but I'm going to tell you, I have the same experience too. And the most recent experience I had with this type of delusional thinking is putting a rental house on the market. Now, if you don't know right now, right now, there's a housing shortage, right? There's a housing shortage. That's why homes are still expensive, even though interest rates have gone up. You would think the prices have gone down, but they haven't because there is a housing shortage. So when I put a rental property out on the market, I offered leases to 8 people, and I was banging my head because nobody was taking it serious. Like, don't you need a home? I mean, you got a nice 2 acre kind of like farm, ranch house. It's not a big mansion. It's very beautiful, very nice, peaceful, and quiet, and people trying to play games with me. You know what I mean? And you know what's funny? The person who had the most amount of money, like far more money than I have, was begging me to rent the property, and said, "I will pay you a year's worth of rent up front." See how that works? So who am I going to rent out to? The one who is realistic and knows that even if you have all the money in the world, if the rental housing stock sucks, that you don't really have that much opportunity with all the money in the world, or are you going to be delusional that even with the housing shortage, okay, even with the housing shortage, you're just going to play games with the landlord and not show up to your appointments to view the property, right? And that's kind of the sad part about helping others, is that you really should not help a lot. Like, you as a business owner, as an individual should be able to operate in a way where you don't become burned out. And I think one of the reasons that people become so burned out in life is that they're basically pursuing activities that don't bear fruit. And I've said this many, many times. Don't ever, like, if you want to be in business and you want to be able to wake up the next day, you don't want to work with poor people, right? You don't want to sell to poor people. And the only way that you can make a living selling to poor people is if you have a huge infrastructure like Walmart, right? Like Walmart makes a ton of money selling to poor people, but the thing is, in order for them, and including Amazon and Temu and all that, in order for you to make money selling a living to poor people, or live making a living selling to poor people, right? You have to have a huge infrastructure. So that's why, kind of like my what's it called? My plan doing Velocity Bank with only a few houses. I don't need like 1,000 houses to be able to make money. I only need two or three. Same thing with rich clients, right? You don't need 1,000 rich clients to make a living. You only need several, right? But with poor people, you're going to spin your wheels and bang your head because a lot of them, and this is sad to say, and I don't know if it's just a modern society thing or if it's always been like this, they have the least opportunities and they're the most delusional, and they think that the opportunity is everywhere when they don't have. They're the ones who don't have it. They're the ones who don't have it, right? So that's kind of the sad part. And it's another thing that's kind of related to this is I tell you my experiences about teaching velocity banking. Now, I know there are many of you out there who are thinking, oh man, I wish I would have learned velocity banking when I was 18 or 19. And that is the perfect age to learn it because I always talk about how you want to learn about how to manage your finances before you take on any debt. But the problem with this country is that we try to learn about finances metaphorically after we learn how to crash the car. We crash the car and then we say to ourselves, oh my goodness, now I need to learn how to drive when it comes to our finances. But but unfortunately, in this country, we got to do the opposite with that. But a lot of people, they don't want to learn when it's the right time to learn. And so one of the things that I show you is that in the channel analytics, the people who watch this channel the least are the ones who should be watching it. So 18 to 24 years old, that's the perfect time to learn about velocity banking. And I have this theory that the reason why so many people, let's say above 45, are watching this, because again, the people who watch this channel the most are above 45. Above 45, 45 to 54. Why do they watch this channel the most? Probably because they crashed the car and then wanted to learn how to drive metaphorically with their finances, right? But the people who should be watching it, who don't want to, who need to learn how to drive safe, are just not watching it because they think they have all the opportunity in the world, but they don't. And again, I know just from watching TikTok videos that people who are at a certain age range, they just complain on TikTok. Nobody's there to save them, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, like life is much harder than I thought it would be." But if you just saw them 5 years ago, they were like, they thought they knew everything. Unfortunately, that's the sad truth about just dealing with people in general, right? The people with the least opportunities are the most delusional, right? And I know this as someone who's making more and more money, that just finding people who are reliable is so rare that, man, I would just shell out so much money just to find a reliable person, right? Well, I don't have that much money compared to, let's say, my tenant who who offered me a year's worth of rent and has all the money in the world, but was like, I can't even find one good rental house, right? That's a realistic person. And that's what happens when you actually have a lot of money. You realize I don't have that much opportunity out there, whereas someone who doesn't have all the money and has the least amount of opportunities, they think the whole world is their oyster. It's so weird, right? All right. Well, that's it for today's Korean Atlanta mentorship. Have a good night, and we will speak next time.